Jonathon here, and welcome to Learn to Playthrough, and welcome to my workstation. Today we're going to be assembling these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, from the first Shadows of Brimstone core box, City of the Ancients. The Ancient Spiders are the alternate enemy of the Void Spiders, and they're going to be using the same models as the Void Spiders. The Snow Terrors are the alternate enemy of the Night Terrors, and they're going to be using the same models as the Night Terrors. And also, other than the assembling of these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, I'm also going to be assembling some extra bonus items. Their enemy record sheets and their tokens. Now during this assembling process, think of it more as assembling tips and tricks than actual assembling. For the assembling, this is geared towards someone who has used cutters to cut parts off of a sprue, and then did or did not cut part of the part off instead of cutting the full part off of a sprue at least once. So I'll be assembling these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens off camera, and then returning to discuss the step-by-step of the assembling I just did. This way you'll know what you're about to get into. So with that, just go ahead and sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now before we begin the assembling process, here's a well-known phrase in the home construction industry. Measure twice, cut once. It means you should double check your measurements for accuracy before cutting a piece of wood. Well, in this case, look twice, cut once. It means you should double check your part on the sprue, looking on both sides of the sprue, before cutting the part off of the sprue. Sometimes the end of a part next to the sprue doesn't look like it belongs to the miniature until you turn the sprue over and see that it's a hand or a gun or whatever, and you would have ended up ruining your miniature by cutting it off. Okay, well that should do it for now. I got plenty more miniatures to assemble, so plenty of tips coming your way. Now, as I said, today we're going to be assembling these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, plus some extra bonus items, their enemy record sheets and their tokens. And here are these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets and their tokens that we're going to be assembling. So first up are the Ancient Spiders. This sprue contains 4 of the Ancient Spiders, and each Ancient Spider comes in one part. There's a total of 3 sprues here. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So that'll bring the total to 12 Ancient Spiders. The Ancient Spiders are considered freestanding miniatures, so each one does not come with a base. Next we have the Snow Terrors. This sprue contains 1 of the Snow Terrors, and each Snow Terror comes in 10 parts. There's a total of 3 sprues here. We have 1, 2, and 3, which brings the total to 3 Snow Terrors. The Snow Terrors are not considered freestanding miniatures, so each one comes with a 40mm base. Next we have the 2 enemy record sheets. This one is the Ancient Spiders enemy record sheet. And then we have the Snow Terrors enemy record sheet. And finally we have the tokens sheet. And this is the one that I decided to assemble with the name of the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors on one line, which I'll combine with these 7 remaining 110-pound cardstock sheets to make some thick tokens. Tokens that are about the same thickness as the tokens you get in the game. So with all that information about what's included and going to happen, I'm going to go ahead and jump off camera and assemble these 2 alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. So, I'll be right back. Hello there, welcome back as we just finished up the assembling of the 2 alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. Now, before we get to those alternate enemies, the ancient spiders and the snow terrors, their enemy record sheets and their tokens, here are some items, most of them not talked about before, that were used in the assembling of the two alternate enemies, the ancient spiders and the snow terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. So let's go ahead and talk about these new items. First up, we have this green mat, and it is a U.S. Art Supply 18-inch by 24-inch 5-layer self-healing cutting mat. And this one is used for protecting the working area that you're on, whether it be your dinner table or even this workstation. Now, as you can see, this one's green, and on the back side, there's actually a black version of it. So you get a 2-for-1 sale. Now, as you can see here in the picture, each side has a 1/2-inch grid system. There are two 23-inch rulers, one on the top and one on the bottom. And then there's two 17-inch rulers, one on the left side and one on the right side. And there are also a 30, 45, 60, and 90-degree line for you to use. Next up is the Bremen Precision metal ruler, and this one has a cork backing to it. And you want to make sure you get yourself a cork backing because it's going to protect your project from the metal ruler. And with the metal ruler sliding around, it could actually, scuff up your project or even catch it and damage it. Now also the cork back, what it can do is that when you apply pressure down onto the ruler, the cork back will actually grip your project so that the ruler won't go sliding around. Next, I have 4 different cutting devices. First up is my X-ACTO knife, and I've been using this for a while, so it's really not that new. The blade is very long and it comes to a point, and so it's able to reach into some nice small spaces. Next I have these Fiskar Scissors, and the handle is plastic and the finger holes are actually made of rubber so that your fingers won't get sore if you're cutting for a very long time. And I use these for just trimming up paper. Next we have some heavy-duty scissors here, and these are EMT scissors. And these are promoted to actually cut a penny. Now, though I'm not going to be cutting a penny, I am going to be cutting thick material. As you're going to see, I use these to cut the 8 110-pound cardstock sheets that have been glued together for the tokens. And finally is the Fiskar's Rotary cutter. And this actually looks like a pizza cutter. And you can see the orange guard here. So you just press the button and pull back and it opens up. And then make sure that you have this thing shut when you're not using it and place it off to the side. As an example, I had this on the cutting mat here, and my hand was about 4 to 6 inches away, and I moved my hand and I bumped into the blade. And as you can see here, it cut my pinky. Now you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's nothing, it's hardly any blood and there's no stitches or anything like that. Well, the key word here is actually bumped. So if my finger can bump into the blade and cause that, what do you think is going to happen if you go and cut some paper with this rotary cutter and it runs over your finger? Okay, it's going to cut your flesh pretty deep and actually maybe even cut into your bones. So definitely be careful of this. Use it, put the guard back, and put it off to the side. Now, other than cutting your bones, what can possibly happen is you could actually damage even this metal ruler. As seen by this picture, that when I was cutting with this rotary cutter, it jumped onto the ruler and actually scraped the ruler. So if the blade from this rotary cutter is going to damage this ruler, think about what it's going to do to your fingers and your bones. So, as a safety tip, just keep it straight up and down. Don't go any kind of angles. Don't do any rotations. When you finish cutting, lift it up, shut the guard, and then just put it off to the side. Alright, next up we have the Elmer's spray adhesive. And this is going to produce a nice thin film onto your paper. And it's not like the Elmer's white glue where you go ahead and squeeze out a bunch of glue, then use your finger to rub it flat, and then when you put the papers together, you can actually squeeze the papers and it feels kind of mushy, that white Elmer's glue. So not this stuff. This stuff is very sticky or tacky, that when you put the papers together, it's going to stick really quick. And you could possibly pull it apart and not rip your paper, but the paper is going to end up being a little bit warped. But it's some good stuff to use, spray adhesive. And then finally we have the Kadomaru Pro Corner Cutter. And this is used to make round corners when you have a project that's got a 90-degree angle to it, nice and pointy. You can go ahead and use one of these and go ahead and make some round corners. Now on the top we have a S, an M, and an L, which stands for small, medium, and large. The small is going to produce a 3mm radius corner. The medium is going to produce a 5mm radius corner. And the large is going to produce an 8mm radius corner. Okay, so that's it for these new items. And if you'd like to buy any of these items, I'll go ahead and leave links down in the show notes where you can find them. And these links are just going to be some basic Google searches so that you have a good idea and a starting point where to look for them. So with all that information about those new items that I used, I'm going to go ahead and jump off camera to set up the two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. So, I'll be right back. Hello there, welcome back again as we just finished up the assembling of these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. So let's go ahead and talk about the assembling process of these two alternate enemies, the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. The assembling process went by sort of quick, and not everything assembled very nicely, as there were some stressful situations. First up are these Ancient Spiders. And they assembled really quick, probably due to the fact that there is only one part for them. So I started with examining the front of each sprue, and I looked for any kind of damaged or missing parts. Then I went ahead and flipped it to the back side of each sprue, did the same thing, looked for any kind of damaged or missing parts. And then I went ahead and cut the parts off of the sprue by using my flush cutters, and then I cleaned them up with the use of my X-ACTO knife and some fine files. And definitely watch out for their spider legs, as there's a possibility you could snap some of them off. Now, as you can see here, there are no bases that go with the Ancient Spiders, as the Ancient Spiders are considered freestanding miniatures. And since there are no parts to assemble, there you go. We got the Ancient Spiders. Next are these Snow Terrors. And they assembled kind of quick, and overall the assembly went pretty good. So I started with examining the front of each sprue and looked for any kind of damaged or missing parts. Then went and flipped it to the back side of each sprue and did the same thing, looked for any kind of damaged or missing parts. And then I went in and cut the parts off of the sprue, used my flush cutters to do that, and then I cleaned them up only with my X-ACTO knife, as there wasn't a lot of sprue material on the parts. And as you can see here, each of the Snow Terrors are going to come with a 40mm base. Next I went ahead and did a dry fitting, where I assembled the body, the front and the back half, and I put both the arms and the right leg in there. And then I went ahead and squeezed it together, and I looked around the seams to make sure there wasn't any kind of big gaps to deal with. And when I was assembling both those halves with the arms and the leg in there, it was taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. And since I'm using super glue to glue the two halves together, I didn't want to have one of the arms or the leg ended up leaving on the table because the glue dried up. So what I did was I went ahead and took the front half of the body and I glued the right arm into place. Then I took the back half of the body and I glued the left arm and the right leg into place. And then I went ahead and put some glue around the outer edge and then just held the two parts together for about a minute. And then once everything was good to go there, and then now that the body is glued together, the other parts, the head, right hand, left leg, and both feet, can be glued on nice and easy. So I let the glue dry for about 10 minutes or so, and then I went ahead and took the snow tear and placed them on some sandpaper, and I'm using 220 grit here. And then I scraped the snow tear backwards onto the sandpaper so that the bottom of his feet could get flattened a little bit better, so when we place it onto the base, it'll be nice and even. And then I went ahead and glued the snow tear onto the base. Now there's not much room for the snow tear to be onto this 40mm base, as the right side of his right foot is even with the base, but the left foot, there's a couple toes that are actually leaning over the base. So there's really not much room for him. Alright, there you have it. These are the snow tears. And next up are the enemy record sheets. So we have the Ancient Spiders enemy record sheet, and this is the normal version side. And then we have the brutal version side. And then we have the Snow Tears enemy record sheet. And we have the normal version side and the brutal version side. And they assembled pretty stressfully with spray adhesive on the back of both of these enemy record sheets when you put them together, and you only get one chance to have them set correctly. So that spray adhesive is kind of tacky, so right when you touch them together, it's going to stick, and if you try and peel them apart, there's a good chance you might rip the paper, and if you don't, the paper is going to end up kind of rolling up a little bit, so you're going to have to bend it back to go ahead and get it straightened out. So just be careful there. So I started with examining each of the sheets and looked for any kind of discoloration or whatever from the printing, and then I also did a rereading of everything to make sure everything was spelled correctly. Then I went ahead and cut them out using a metal ruler and the rotary cutter. And so we went ahead and removed everything that was white. And then I went ahead and glued them together and used that Elmer spray adhesive. And I got a makeshift jig here where I went ahead and have a box with a couple tabs sticking up there so that I could put this long edge against those two tabs. And then the short edge here, I got a couple pins. So then I go ahead and just take the other paper and just place it right down in there, lay it down and flatten it out, and everything should be pretty good there. And I went ahead and let it dry for about an hour so that the glue could set. And then I went ahead and cut the corners. I used the Kadomaru Pro corner cutter, and I have the medium setting where it's a 5mm radius corner. And there you go. These are the enemy record sheets for the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Tears. Now, if you want to take the easy way out, where there's no printing, no cutting, no gluing, etc., on how to make the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Tears enemy record sheets, then all you have to do is just place the Targa Plateau's Otherworld threat card next to the enemy record sheet that you're making an alternate enemy for. Now, it's a lot easier said than done, as there are some items that are easily seen and some items that are not easily seen. So first, I'll show you how to make the Ancient Spiders enemy record sheet. The Ancient Spiders Enemy Record Sheet is made by merging the Void Spiders Enemy Record Sheet together with the information from the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Ancient Spiders. So just place the Void Spiders Enemy Record Sheet on the gaming table, and then the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Ancient Spiders, right next to it. There you go. Easy peasy, right? Well, let's see. For the normal version side, on the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Ancient Spiders, there are 3 items that are easily seen. We have the new ability Hunger, melee to hit 3+. Now on the Void Spiders Enemy Record Sheet, the to hit section, it shows melee 4+. So you need to go and change that 4+ to a 3+. And we have another new ability, Void Bite, Ancient Spider to hit rolls of 5 or 6, do double damage. Now there's nothing on the enemy record sheet here that says to change anything or anything like that, so go ahead and put some kind of a sticky note in the ability section here and label it Hunger and Void Bite so that you'll know to look at the Otherworld Threat card here if you have any kind of questions on that. And then finally we have 25 XP each. And down here it reads XP is equal to 10, so go ahead and change that 10 to a 25. Now there is only one item that is not easily seen, and this is on the Void Spiders Enemy Record Sheet. And on the Elite chart, Elite ability number 5, it reads Vicious Bite. Void Spider melee to hit is now 3+. Now the 3+ there is irrelevant because that new ability Hunger changes this melee from 4+ to a 3+ already. So what you need to do is change this 3+ to a 2+. And of course, you'd have to change all of the Void Spider names to Ancient Spider. Okay, that's going to do it for the normal version side. Let's go ahead and take a look at the brutal version side. So for the brutal version side, on the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Ancient Spiders, there are 2 items that are easily seen. We have the new ability Hunger, melee to hit 3+. So in that to hit section, melee says 4+, so you need to go and change that 4+ to a 3+. And then the other new ability, Void Bite, Ancient Spider to hit rolls of 5 or 6, do double damage. Now there's nothing on the enemy record sheet that says to change anything for that, so go ahead and put a sticky note here in the ability section that reads Hunger and Void Bite, so you'll know to go ahead and look at the Otherworld Threat card if you have any kind of questions on that. And then there are 2 items that are not easily seen. And the first item is on the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Ancient Spiders, and it reads 25 XP each. Now this is on the normal version side, so the brutal version side is going to have 30 XP each. So down here it reads XP is equal to 20, so go ahead and just change that 20 to a 30. And the second item is on the Void Spiders Enemy Record Sheet, and on the Elite chart area here, and it's Elite ability number 3, Vicious Bite, Void Spider melee to hit is now 3+. And that is the same Elite ability as the one that's on the normal version side, where that 3+ is kind of irrelevant because that Hunger ability changes this 4+ to a 3+ already, so you need to go and change that 3+ to a 2+. And of course, you'd have to go and change all of the Void Spider names to Ancient Spider. Okay, so that's going to do it for the making of the Ancient Spiders Enemy Record Sheet with the use of the Void Spiders Enemy Record Sheet and the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Ancient Spiders. Next, I'll show you how to make the Snow Terrors Enemy Record Sheet. The Snow Terrors Enemy Record Sheet is made by merging the Night Terrors Enemy Record Sheet together with the information from the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Snow Terrors. So just place the Night Terrors Enemy Record Sheet on the gaming table, and then the Targa Plateau's Otherworld Threat card, Snow Terrors, right next to it. And once again, easy peasy, right? Well, let's see. For the normal version side, On the Target Plateaus Otherworld Threat Card Snow Terrors, there are 3 items that are easily seen. We have a new ability, Thick Fur, Defense 4. And down here on the Night Terror's enemy record sheet reads Defense 3, so you have to go and just change that 3 to a 4. Another new ability, Natural Habitat, Initiative 4. On the Night Terror's enemy record sheet, we have Initiative of 3, so just go and change that 3 to a 4. And then we have an XP of 30 plus 5 each. And so here on the Night Terror's enemy record sheet, just go and change that XP equals 10 plus 5 each. Go and change that 10 plus 5 each to a 30 plus 5 each. And of course, you'd have to go and change all of the Night Terror names to Snow Terror. Okay, that's going to do it for the normal version side. Let's go and take a look at the brutal version side. So for the brutal version side, on the Target Plateaus Otherworld Threat Card Snow Terrors, there is only 1 item that is easily seen. And we have that new ability, Thick Fur, Defense 4. So here we have Defense 3. Go and change that 3 to a 4. But then there are 3 items that are not easily seen. And the first item is on the Target Plateaus Otherworld Threat Card Snow Terrors, and it reads Natural Habitat Initiative 4, which is the initiative that's on the normal version side. So on the brutal version side, you're going to have to go and change this Initiative 4, change that to Initiative 5. And the second item is on the Target Plateaus Otherworld Threat Card Snow Terrors. It reads XP 30 plus 5 each, which is the XP on the normal version side. So the brutal version side is going to have an XP is equal to 20 plus 5 each, so you need to go and change that 20 plus 5 each to a 40 plus 5 each. And the third item is on the Night Terror's enemy record sheet, and this is on the elite chart, and it's elite ability number 6, Hunters, and it reads Night Terrors are now Initiative 5. Well, the 5 is irrelevant because we just changed the initiative of 4 here to a 5 for the Snow Terrors. So what we're going to have to do is just go ahead and change this initiative 5. We have to change that 5 to a 6. And of course, you'd have to go and change all of the Night Terror names to Snow Terror. Okay, so that's going to do it for the making of the Snow Terror's enemy record sheet with the use of the Night Terror's enemy record sheet and the Target Plateaus Otherworld Threat Card, Snow Terrors. And finally are the tokens. The assembling was tedious as there are 29 tokens to assemble and they took a while to cut and clean up. There are 3 40mm Snow Terrors tokens. There's 1 30mm Snow Terrors token, and this one can be used on your initiative track if by chance you use an initiative track. There are 12 30mm Ancient Spiders tokens, and then there is 1 more 30mm Ancient Spiders token, and this one can be used on your initiative track if by chance you use an initiative track. And also, I figured that since these Ancient Spiders are a small enemy, they shouldn't really be represented by a 30mm token, since that is what a medium-sized enemy is. So I included 12 20mm Ancient Spiders tokens to be used for their small size, if you'd like to use these instead. So I started with choosing which layout I wanted, either the name of the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors on one line, or the name of the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors on 2 lines. And I went ahead and used the name of the Ancient Spiders and the Snow Terrors on 1 line. Next, you're going to glue, with the use of the Elmer spray adhesive, the 7 blank 110-pound cardstock sheets together smoothing each sheet you glued on top. Then, glue the tokens sheet you decided on top of the 7 blank 110-pound cardstock sheets you just glued together. And make sure you do this last so that you don't do any extra rubbing of the token sheet when smoothing the blank 110-pound cardstock sheets together. Then go ahead and let it dry for about an hour so that the glue can set. Next, I went ahead and cut out the tokens, and this is where I used those EMT scissors. Go ahead and cut a square area around the tokens to remove it from the full sheet, and this way later on I'll have easy workability. Then go ahead and cut around the token close to it so that it produces the least amount of white cardstock shown. Then I use sandpaper to sand down any extra white cardstock shown around the tokens, and this smoothed out the sides, but it did produce a mushroom effect which went over the front and the back side. Then I sanded down the edges, both the front and the back, at a slight angle to knock down that mushroom effect produced from sanding the sides. Now I didn't really crank down on it, I just used a little wisping of it so I could knock down that mushroom effect. And this ends up producing a little white line around the face of the token. And there you go. We have the tokens for the ancient spiders and the snow terrors. Well, there you have it. This is going to complete the assembling of these 2 alternate enemies, the ancient spiders and the snow terrors, from the first Shadows of Brimstone core box, City of the Ancients, and their extra bonus items, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. The ancient spiders, the snow terrors, their enemy record sheets, and their tokens. Now that our alternate enemies, the ancient spiders and the snow terrors, are all assembled and ready to go, let's go ahead and get our enemies back down to the gaming table for some more action.